Video will help you create new records in each of the areas that you might be tracking in treatment trackers such as diagnostics, practitioners, symptoms, and treatments. There was already a video that kind of showed some basic navigation and how to set up the data to allow you to see it on this dashboard screen. So please watch that video. It will help you with that. I recommend that you start by adding practitioners to your database. And you can do so, you click practitioners, and it's going to give you the option of a list view or a detail view. List view won't do you any good until you actually have some doctors in there. So click list view. You're going to need to add a new record before you can type into the field. So we will create, actually, since their name is going to show up on a value list somewhere, so I can't even think of good examples for test information. There's a bunch of specialties that are already set up in the system. You can change those later if you would like. I don't think I have right now. There are no locations that are set up, and so you can use the plus button to add a new location. And then that location will be available on a drop-down list to you. You can put in phone number and extension if you would like. If your doctor uses a care coordinator to help manage phone calls and prescription refill requests, etc., you can put that person's information down here. Sometimes they have a different phone number and extension. Sometimes there are people on rotation or they come in and out, and so you can mark them active or inactive accordingly. The same with this particular practitioner's record. You can mark them active or inactive if you don't want to see them on lists later on down the line. So to create another practitioner, just click the new record button and then give them a different, give them a specialty and a location for the, just to show you that it adds it automatically. It will add it both to the field and then to the drop-down list, so we can see test location from previously and then test location to now. And again, you can add phone numbers and extensions, etc. Now when you go to the list view, you will see these doctors listed on here. They'll have additional information when you fill out the details form completely, but you can click this button to view the details for them. Okay. Once you have practitioners, you can attribute practitioners to diagnostics, such as an ordering doctor, or to treatment, such as a prescribing doctor or a practitioner if you're seeing like a massage therapist. So that's why I recommend that you start with practitioners first. For diagnostics, go to the detail view to add new records. The diagnostics section is actually incredibly handy when you're going into different doctors' offices, especially if they are not within the same system, such as Kaiser, where they might not have access to all your medical records. Because you can get copies of your records and store the information here, so you have it at your fingertips, and you can even export and email the contents of this field here to doctors if they need a copy of records and things like that. So that's a pretty handy feature. So again, click the new record button to add a new record. If you are adding a diagnostic record that led to a diagnosis, as in irregular, not a negative test. So if you had a test for rheumatoid arthritis and it shows that you have elevated autoimmune response and your doctor diagnosed you with rheumatoid arthritis, then you want to flag this record. So that way you can come back and quickly review these results, because people might say, okay, if you were diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, what was your rheumatoid titers count? And you'll have that information available to you here. You can put in the date of your test and the test name, eye exam, let's say, and if your results were 2020, you can put them here. You have multiple lines, so you can say ordered new glasses, whatever your notes are for this particular thing. If you, I actually have records where I have literally copied and pasted out of Kaiser the blood work results that I get. So sometimes they're in groups of 20, and you can put them into here and organize them. You can even put tabs between values to kind of help you with formatting. So Option tab will allow you to add tabs. Oh, Option tab on the Mac, I should say. Okay, and then this value list is driven by the doctors that you've entered into practitioners. So we can see doctors X and Y. We'll say that the ordering doctor here was Dr. X. Oh, look, conveniently it was ophthalmology. So that's not necessarily unfounded. And you can just drag and drop a document into this field and it will save it, so then you can access it later on if you need to see the results. So if you get an eye exam done, you can either scan and then drag and drop into this field, or take a picture of the prescription on your phone and then enter it if you're using a mobile device, or upload that to your computer and drag and drop it. Very, very handy. You can make notes here about the examination that you had. I guess I'll speak of myself in the first person, made me very tired after. So whatever results are, if you went to an MRI and you were very, very sore afterward for laying in the same position, or it caused anxiety because you were in a small enclosed place, or it gave you a pounding headache because of all of the noise, you can put those notes here, or enter in notes from discussions once you've had a chance to review these diagnostic tools with the practitioner that ordered them. So you can use this really for whatever you want. You can delete them if you would like, and it's going to ask you to verify that you want to delete it, because once it's gone, it's not coming back. Okay, so symptoms. Actually, let's go to treatments just for continuity's sake. We'll go into detail view again. If there's no records, there's nothing to see on these lists. You can mark a medication as do not take if it's something, oops, I have to have a new record. If it's something that you have had a bad reaction to, mark it as do not take. Enter a medication start date, and it's important when you're cycling through medications, because you haven't found one that works well for you, that you try to track as closely as possible the start date and the end date of when you are taking a medication, because sometimes they can determine that you didn't stay on a medication long enough, or that you ramped up too quickly. If you're going to try it again, they can adjust your dosing and the timing and things like that. So in my database right now, there are no medication names or treatments available, and so you can add one. Test drug, we will call this, and it shows up right there. And then you can put in a medication brand name. Normally when you pick a drug from the list, if there's a brand name associated with it, then it will automatically populate this field. I recommend that when you put in the drug that you're using, that you differentiate between medications that are generic versus medications that are brand name. So oftentimes I will name something generic test drug. So that way, if you end up taking one or the other, and then later on the opposite of that, you can track the information about that medication in detail. And then, it's called Alexa, whatever the brand name of this particular drug is, right? So the drug is, that would go with here, and then Alexa, right? And then when we're looking at a generic drug, we would actually name it something else. The generic would just be generic drug. So it'll make more sense once you've got some entries in there and you need to differentiate between them. Drug class. You can type directly into this field. There will be a drop-down available if there are values that have been created from previous entries. So whatever your drug class is, enter it into here. We'll just call this a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. And then that will show up as a value that you can select in the future. I would get your drug class information either from the drug insert that you're given by the pharmacy. That's probably the best information because you know that it's specifically tied to the bottle of medication that you've been given. Sometimes I go to Google and I do a Google search, and they actually are pretty good about including information about drug classes, and so that's my second pick for places to find information. So that way later on you can theoretically search treatments by drug types if you needed to, or sort them by drug types if you want to see how many calcium channel blockers that you had, or how many antipsychotics that you had, or any antispasmodic drugs, or whatever, if that's something that you need to look at. So write your dosing here. It's a free-form field. It's not going to ever have a drop-down value. So you can say 5 milligrams 1 time a day for a week, and then two times a day. So that way you're knowing that you're ramping up. And you can say 2 times a day. Oh, so it says, for a week, and that then you were on 2 times a day, 5 milligrams 2 times a day. But as long as your notes are consistent, you'll be able to share this information with your doctors, and it will be useful for them. So for use types, I have some predefined values in there, and you can add or change these values if they're not useful. I have sorted my drugs into use, either preventative, meaning they're trying to prevent a particular condition, such as epilepsy. You'll have anti-epileptic medications that are going to be preventative. You'll have rescue type medications. So if you get migraine headaches and you take Imitrex, that would be a rescue medication that you're taking to intervene in acute pain. A supplement is something like magnesium or calcium, something like that. And then I put in supportive for medications that or treatments that you might be taking, such as herbs from a Chinese medicine doctor, or I can't think of any other good examples. Any other herbs. As a matter of fact, there are herbs for headaches and things like that. So that would be supportive medications, not necessarily vitamin supplements, but supportive herbs and things like that. Also, if you're using this to track treatments such as massage and yoga, those would go here under supportive as well, likely. But you can categorize things in whatever way makes sense to you. Doctors that you have added into the practitioner screen will show up on your drop-down list, so that way you can attribute drugs to the doctor who prescribed them to you. So again, before you can enter them here, you're going to have them over on the practitioner screen, and they'll populate with their specialty and the location that you gave them on the practitioner's detail screen. So you can make notes here about your treatment or medication. You can say it caused skin rash, and then mark it as do not take. You can say upset stomach, used with Zofran. Is that a anti-nausea drug? I don't recall. Nonetheless, you can add information like that here. I find a lot of times doctors want to know when you stop taking a medication, why. So oftentimes you can say, not effective, or whatever, caused headaches. So they can say whether or not, looking back, that you've taken it long enough to for it to have been effective, and that the side effects that you're experiencing outweigh any benefits that you may or may not have been given. But tracking that information, including the start and end date, is very important. So when you enter a new drug into the system, when you leave end date blank, it's automatically going to mark a drug as current. So then when you go to treatments, list current, it will show up here on your list. So you'll be able to always at a glance see what medications that you have taken, that you are currently taking. You can see all drugs at this point. We have one drug that you were taking, and it's in the supportive category. As you get more in here, this all list will organize by the use type and the number of medications in that class, which is very useful later on when you're trying to talk to a doctor about all the medications that you've taken. You know, they're going to want to know preventative medications, not necessarily the number of herbs that you've tried or over-the-counter things that your grandma told you to try or whatever. And so it'll be organized in that way so they can kind of get to the information that they want specifically. And then again, when you mark something do not take, it will show up on this do not take list. But at this time, there are no medications that are marked that way, so it's going to give us an error. Symptoms. Symptoms is a really great category that you can track. There's so much information here that you can keep, and I have been getting some feedback that, and maybe we'll add some more. Again, you need to add a new record if you're going to be able to type into fields. And so you can keep information by date and then the location. I have a whole bunch of just predefined locations that are in here. You can either keep them or add to them or take them out later on if that's something that you would like. We'll say today that your back hurt, but back does not seem to be on here as far as location. So then just click the plus button and you can add back to the location. And then pick an intensity. This is a pain scale. I tried to pick one that was pretty widely used and accepted by doctors, and so this is Andrea Mankowski's pain scale. And so there's a description for the intensity that will help you pick the appropriate numbers. So you're always using the same pain scale values as you're tracking things, just for consistency purposes, and then you can share this pain scale information with your doctor so they know, you know, how you're tracking your information. So as you click through, you'll see that they're all different to describe. So minor annoyance, occasional strong twinges, it wasn't impactful on your day, basically. And so this is the category of pain. We'll call it muscle pain, and then the type. Describe how it felt. And we will say tightness for this muscle pain. The trigger. If you have a trigger that you know, this is particularly useful for headaches, I suppose, then you can put that in here. Or activity, you slept funny, whatever, you can add. You can add anything that you want by using this plus button. Preceding event, if you have some joint pain but you went hiking for the weekend, then you know that your preceding event is likely hiking, and you could put that in here. Or sitting too long, or lack of exercise, or whatever your preceding event might be. Sometimes going to the club or having a glass of wine, whatever it is that might have caused that. If you don't know any preceding events, then just leave it blank. So care, what did you do to help alleviate this particular symptom? So for a back pain, I might rest or take it easy, or use some heat or ice. So you can add that here. If you have a symptom that you can get a photo or a video or something like that of, if you have swelling or a rash, you know, or if your eye is droopy, you can capture that and you can put that in here. Sometimes it's it feels like when you go to a doctor to talk about your symptoms that, you know, you're like, oh, my knee has been swollen all week and it's just so painful. And they see you and they're like, it's not swollen now. You're like, oh my gosh, all these great things that I've done all week, ice and rest, have brought the swelling down. You know, but you can have a picture so they know what the joint swelling looked like, and if it's something that they need to follow up with. You can make notes about a symptom. If it lasted 3 days, but you didn't want to enter 3 days worth of symptoms in there, you can add that. You can, you know, you can, I don't even know what kind of notes you might make about back pain, but you know, whatever notes that you might want to make about your particular symptoms. Once you have some information in there, then the symptoms are going to show up on this list, and then you can click the button here on the left in order to get to the details. It makes it a little bit faster when you have a whole bunch of symptoms or practitioners or diagnostics or treatments in there to be able to use that list view. Alternately, when there are multiple records, you can actually flip forward and backward using the forward-backward or go to the record number if you know it specifically to help you navigate as well. Now that there's some data in here, we can go back to the dashboard and see some information has been added to this dashboard. So now in the portal for diagnostic tests, we can see that on 9/25 there was an eye exam. We can see that we have 2 medications listed. One of them is supportive. The other one looks like it doesn't have a use type attributed to it. We have 1 doctor by specialty. And we have 1 symptom category of muscle pain that we've tracked, 1 symptom type of tightness that we've tracked, 1 intensity level of 2 on our graph, and then 1 symptom type by location back that we've tracked. And so as you add information in here, your graph will get more full, and it'll give you some real-time information at a glance, I suppose, information about all of the things that you've been entering. Each of these reports that are on here are also available in a larger version if you want to see the full screen version. That's what these buttons here are. So when you click them, you'll see a full screen version of the intensity type report. And on the desktop, it's pretty easy to save as a PDF. And so you just click the Save PDF button. You can do that on a mobile device as well, but it's a little bit more convoluted to get to your reports in the mobile version. So once you've saved this, you can print it, you can email it to your doctors, whatever helps you. So the same is also available for treatment history. This is all of your medications. And because there's so much data on treatments, the type is very, very, very small, but it does hold a lot of information. You could get a report of practitioner by specialty if you're trying to figure out how many doctors that you've seen and what their specialties are. You can do that here as well. And then treatment use type is available. That's what this report is. So that way you have some reports that you can have in your hand when you go. Treatment history has been the most valuable for me. Anytime that I go to a new doctor, I always bring this report with me so I can show them all the medications that I've tried, the drug class that they were in, whether or not I'm taking it, and then notes about its effectiveness. It's been very handy for me. Okay, so you saw there were a lot of drop-down lists that already had values in it that you may or may not find useful. You can change that by going to List Management. So here you can see that we've got 2 practitioner locations, and you might not like test in there, or you might read through this list and you might not like to have you know, pain management or urgent care because it doesn't apply to your particular case. Oops, I didn't mean to click. Plus, to get rid of one, you can click on the field and then click delete. and the record will be deleted. And it's going to ask you if you mean to delete it, because once it's gone forever. When you have a value that's in use, it should give you an error that will let you know that you can't delete that value because it's already in use. So then you just have to go back and find practitioners who are using the test location, change that value or update that value, and then come back and then delete the one that you wanted to mark. So you can even change it to delete, so it's easy to find later on. And then when you go to practitioners, you'll be able to find the one that has this test location with delete, and then move it over to test location 2, go back to your list management, and then you'll be able to delete this value because it's no longer in use. So the same can be done with any of these category lists that are down below for symptoms. You can either add to or delete values out of symptom location, symptom type, symptom trigger, symptom care, and symptom category. And these are the things that are going to show up on your reports. And so they're very useful to have tracked. So if you're missing something that's not on this list, go ahead and add it, and it will show up on the reports that you generate from the dashboard. So that covers the basics as far as entering new records for practitioners, diagnostic procedures, symptoms, and treatments, and then how to manage your lists in the list management section. There you go. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm definitely available to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.